They don't say it, but you can feel it. The moment you walk in, the energy shifts. Voices lower, smiles become tight, conversations trail off mid-sentence. It's subtle, but unmistakable. And no, it's not because you're rude or arrogant. It's because there's something about you that makes people pause. An invisible weight. A presence. A silent kind of intensity that no one can name but everyone notices. You ask real questions. You listen with your full attention. You speak with clarity, not to impress, but to connect. And when you look someone in the eye, they look away. You've probably been told you're too intense, too serious, that you overthink everything. But what if the truth is you're not too much at all? What if, as Carl Jung believed, your presence carries something that's not threatening, but rare? A force. Not some mystical aura floating in colors, but a kind of psychological gravity. Something honest. Something still. Something that makes other people come face to face with themselves and flinch. Because that's the thing. People aren't afraid of you. They're afraid of their reflection. Your presence, your energy challenges their mask. It brings discomfort to those addicted to comfort. It reflects back what they're trying not to see. Their fear, their insecurity, their denial. So they pull back. They gossip. They label you. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because your truth unsettles their illusion. Carl Jung spent his entire life studying the unconscious. He believed that those who confront their shadow, the hidden, uncomfortable parts of themselves, begin to radiate a different kind of presence, a quiet power, an energy that doesn't shout. It simply is. In Jungian psychology, this energy isn't mystical, it's psychic. It's not light. It's not aura colors. It's energy that others feel long before you speak. Jung called this the unconscious transmission of the self. And it begins with integration, facing your pain, your truth, your contradictions. The more honest you become with yourself, the more aligned your presence becomes, and the more intense that presence feels to others, even in silence, even in a room full of people. It's in your eyes. It's in the way you hold space. It's in your refusal to perform. And some people, they can't handle that. Sign number 1, people say you're too intense. You're just speaking your truth, calmly, honestly. But for some reason it feels like too much, because you're not speaking from ego. You're not playing games. You're speaking from depth. You say what others avoid. You name what they hide. You walk into spaces built on illusion and accidentally turn the lights on. It's not aggression. It's not ego. It's honesty. And in a world that survives on pretending, honesty feels like an attack. Jung believed that some people carry energy that awakens the unconscious in others. Not by force, but by presence. When you speak, you don't just say things. You transmit energy. And that energy says, this is real. Are you ready for that? Most aren't. Sign number 2, small talk drains you. How's the weather? What do you do? Did you watch that show? You try. You really do. You nod. You smile. You reply. But deep inside, something in you wilts. Jung believed that when you're deeply connected to your unconscious, you start to resist surface-level interaction. Because surface talk isn't real. It's a script. It's a social shield. And your energy, it disrupts that shield. You don't even have to speak. Your silence already says, let's go deeper. But that breaks the flow. It unsettles people who use small talk as armor, so they label you antisocial or too serious. But what's actually happening is this. Your soul is hungry for depth, and your energy makes that hunger visible. Sign number 3. People confess things to you and leave. They open up to you, sometimes total strangers. They say things they've never said out loud. They call you the only one who understands. And then they vanish. The conversation ends. The texts stop. The connection fades. Why? Because your presence allowed them to be real. And that level of emotional exposure for someone who's not ready feels like too much. Jung believed that some people carry the archetype of the healer. Even if they're not therapists or spiritual guides, They radiate safety, stillness, warmth. So others come to them, bleed to them. But the healer rarely gets healed. You hold space. You absorb. But few ever ask, and how are you doing? It creates a loneliness where you're always in emotion, but rarely in connection. Because your energy pulls out honesty, even from those who don't know how to hold it. Sign number 4, people avoid eye contact with you. You feel it. You walk in and people shift. They glance, then look away. They whisper. They retreat, even if you're being warm, even if you're saying nothing at all. Jung taught that when you integrate the parts of yourself that others deny, you become a mirror. Your eye contact becomes a psychic experience. They don't just see you, they see themselves. And if they're not ready for that, they flinch. They'll say you're intimidating. They'll avoid your gaze. They'll claim you're judging them when all you did was look. Sign number 5, you trigger strong reactions without doing anything. You're just there. You sit quietly. You mind your own energy. And yet someone nearby gets irritated, defensive, cold, passive-aggressive. You didn't say a word. You didn't make a move, but your very presence disrupted something in them. Jung explained this as the psyche reacting to what it cannot consciously handle. You're not the problem. You're just the mirror. And most people, they're not ready to see themselves that clearly. Sign number 6, you can't tolerate fake personas. You feel it before they even speak. The mask, the performance, the puffed-up identity. You don't judge them. You just see through them. Jung called this sensitivity a byproduct of psychological wholeness, the result of integrating your shadow. When you've done that inner work, you develop a kind of X-ray vision for inauthenticity. And without saying a word, your energy communicates, drop the act. I see the real you. That makes people nervous. Some might get defensive. Others might pull away. But almost none will stay completely relaxed. Because your presence doesn't allow illusions to breathe. Sign number 7, you make people second-guess themselves. You're in a conversation, and suddenly the energy shifts. They pause mid-sentence. They start explaining themselves. They say things like, "Wait, does that even make sense?" or, "Now I'm not so sure." You didn't criticize them. You didn't challenge them. But your presence, your clarity did. Carl Jung believed that a person who embodies deep self-awareness becomes a walking contradiction to the collective narrative. You don't echo what everyone else is saying. You don't agree just to keep the peace. You don't shy away from the deeper truths. That kind of stillness, that quiet clarity disrupts the script. You don't need to argue. You don't need to prove anything. You just are. And that unsettles people who rely on external validation to define themselves. Your calm reveals their anxiety. Your truth shakes their facade. And so even if you never say a word, they feel the need to justify themselves in your presence. Sign number 8, people open up, then pull away. You share a moment. A deep conversation. They tell you things they've never said out loud. They say you get them in a way no one else does. Then suddenly they vanish. No conflict, no falling out, just silence. You wonder, was I too much? Did I do something wrong? But the truth, you weren't too much. You were too real. Jung believed that when people feel seen at a soul level, it can trigger a kind of existential panic, because they're not used to being seen without their mask. Your energy didn't hurt them, it revealed them, and that's what scared them. They weren't ready to walk through the door your presence opened. So they ran. Not from you, from themselves. Sign 9, you intimidate authority figures. You're respectful, calm, grounded. But somehow your very presence rattles people who are used to holding power. Your boss acts passive-aggressive. A dominant coworker suddenly goes quiet. That overconfident, loud voice in the room softens around you. Why? Because your aura doesn't play the usual games. You don't seek permission. You don't beg for validation. You don't pretend to be impressed. Jung believed that when someone integrates their inner king or queen archetype, they begin to radiate sovereignty. Not dominance, not ego, just presence. You don't need to prove yourself, and that unnerves people who rely on control to feel secure. Your energy says you don't have power over me. And for those whose identity is their power, that's terrifying. Sign number 10, you become the villain in someone else's story for simply being real. You showed up with kindness. You were honest, clear, gentle. But suddenly you're cold, too intense, arrogant, closed off. They twist your boundaries into rejection, your silence into judgment, your self-respect into ego. This is projection. One of Jung's most critical insights was that people unconsciously project their denied traits onto others. So when someone hasn't dealt with their inner wounds, they offload them onto whoever's brave enough to stand in their light. And because your presence reflects what they don't want to confront you, become the enemy in a narrative that never belonged to you. You didn't betray them. You just refused to perform. Sign number 11, strangers are drawn to you without knowing why. It happens everywhere. A stranger starts talking to you not about the weather, but about their childhood trauma, their breakup, their fears. They look confused and say, "I don't know why I'm telling you this." This is numinous energy, a Jungian concept describing spiritual gravity. It's not charisma. It's not surface-level charm. It's soul-deep resonance. Your energy doesn't say, "Talk to me." It says, "I see you." And for those carrying pain, grief, or longing, your presence feels like a lighthouse in a storm. They might not understand it, but they feel it. You weren't looking for them, but your aura was already calling. Sign number 12, you feel the energy of a room instantly. You walk in and your body knows before your mind does something's off. Tension in the air, a hidden resentment, an unspoken truth. You can feel what isn't being said, not because you're paranoid, because you're attuned. Jung called this psychological intuition the unconscious awareness that operates beneath words, tone, and logic. You don't analyze, you feel. This is both a gift and a challenge, because when you can feel everything, you can also absorb what isn't yours. The moods, the emotions, the projections. Your aura is like a radio tower constantly picking up frequencies others don't even know they're transmitting. And if you're not careful, you carry emotions that never belonged to you. Sign number 13, you've always felt different. Not just quirky, not just weird, different on a soul level. Even as a child, you felt off-center, like you were standing in a world that never quite made sense. You tried to fit in. You learned the rules. You played the part. But deep down, something in you knew you weren't here to conform. You were here to awaken. Jung believed that some people are born with a calling from the self, a spiritual summons toward individuation, wholeness, and depth. And those people, they often live at the edges of society. They don't crave crowds. They crave truth. Their aura doesn't scream. It whispers to those ready to listen. Some will be inspired by you. Others will be terrified. But very few will ignore you, because your presence carries the weight of someone not born to fit in, but sent to change the game. You've seen it happen again and again. You walk into a room and suddenly the atmosphere shifts. People fidget. They go quiet. They change the subject or avoid your eyes. And deep down you wonder, why? You didn't say anything controversial. You weren't trying to stand out. You were just being yourself. But that's the thing. In a world addicted to pretense, being yourself is a revolutionary act. Carl Jung believed that when someone has integrated their shadow, the parts of themselves that society tells them to suppress, they begin to radiate a presence that is both healing and threatening. Not because it harms anyone, but because it reflects what others have avoided within themselves. Your aura says, "I've faced myself," have you? And for people who haven't, that feels like standing in front of a mirror they didn't ask to see. The ego's resistance to truth. Jung's most profound idea was individuation, the process of becoming a whole human being. But individuation is not the path of the crowd. It's not popular. It's not easy. And it almost always begins with isolation. Because the ego, our carefully crafted image of who we are, does not want to evolve. It wants to maintain control. It wants to feel safe, even if that safety is built on illusion. Your presence disrupts that, not because you challenge people directly, but because your existence forces them to confront questions they've buried. Who am I really? What am I running from? What have I ignored? You're not too much. You're simply unwilling to be less. Why rare energy feels dangerous. Society is built to reward what's predictable. Smile, nod, agree. Stay light. Stay easy. Stay likable. So when someone walks in carrying stillness, silence, and soul, it rattles people. You don't follow the script. You don't chase approval. You don't need the spotlight. You are the spotlight. Because you radiate something that doesn't fit into a category truth. That kind of energy creates what Jung called emotional dissonance, the discomfort people feel when reality confronts their illusions. And to escape that discomfort, people label you too deep, too serious, too cold, because it's easier to blame the mirror than to face the reflection. Your aura is a mirror, and mirrors aren't always welcome. Some people will adore you. They'll feel seen, known, and safe in your presence. They'll say, "Where have you been all my life?" Others, they'll run, not because you harmed them, but because your clarity shined too brightly on the fog they live in. Jung believed the aura of an awakened person is a psychic invitation, an offer to step into the light, to confront the shadow, to grow. But growth hurts, and not everyone is ready. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to be true. Your solitude is sacred, Carl Jung once said. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But he also knew that becoming who you truly are means shedding what isn't you, and that shedding process can be painful. People will fall away. Connections will fade. You'll outgrow relationships that were once everything. It's lonely, but it's sacred. Because in the silence that follows, something else rises: clarity. You begin to see who you are not through the lens of others, but from within. Your pain is proof of your progress. That discomfort you feel in shallow conversations, that pull to detach from draining environments, that ache when people misunderstand your silence. That's not dysfunction. That's evolution. Your energy has changed. Your awareness has deepened. And the world still spinning in distraction doesn't know how to meet you there yet. But that's okay, because the ones who can meet you there, they're rare too. And they'll find you. You are not too much, you are just rare. You feel deeply. You speak slowly. You move differently. Not because you're broken, but because you were never meant to be ordinary. You were meant to see what others miss, to feel what others numb, to ask what others won't. And that calling will always come with resistance, from others, from the world, and sometimes from yourself. But keep going, keep growing, keep radiating, because your aura is not a mistake. It's a message that says, it's okay to be real. It's okay to be deep. It's okay to be whole. So the next time someone tells you you're too intense, too quiet, too sensitive, too different, you smile, because what they're really saying is, you remind me of the parts of myself I'm not ready to face. And that is your power. Your aura is not just energy. It's a signpost for what's possible when someone dares to become fully alive. And while not everyone will celebrate it, the ones who are ready will never forget it.